weekly podcast every Tuesday on Spotify, YouGoin'Pro podcast. We are the number one podcast in the world that helps athletes develop proficiency, assisting their passion for the game they love. This is episode 41. We are talking about what does it take to get drafted today. Also, we're talking about what is it like playing D2 ball. And another topic we'll be diving into is how do you make it the transition from pro ball to D2 ball, and much, much more. Today's guest was drafted in 2016 by the Baltimore Orioles and also played with Lenore Ryan in North Carolina. And let's bring him on, Matthew Deliverhosa. How you doing, Matthew?
Hey, let's go, man. I appreciate it. Great intro, man. Somebody who had a podcast, man. You freaking nailed that. Oh, man, that's awesome. Hey, let's go. I'm excited to talk, man. I'm excited to talk and help the parents, the kids, who's ever listening to this. Obviously, you're somebody who's serious about your baseball career or
Yes.
just the overall recruitment. And, we'll dive into it. But I was in your shoes. I didn't know nothing and ended up, fortunately getting all the way to the pros, but took a lot of wrong turns along the way, and hopefully guys like yourself can help minimize the lack of information that some of these
Right.
people have, and just across the country, across the world, when it comes to what does it actually mean to play college ball, and then how do you go from college ball to the pros? Like, what does
Right.
that kind of look like?
Because they think that just because they look at YouTube videos and they post things, that's all they have to do, Matthew. You
Yeah,
are right.
I will say though that's a part of it nowadays.
It is part,
Like,
yeah, it's part of it.
that is a part of it nowadays.
It's part of it. They just think that that's it. And we're gonna get off into that anyway. So let's talk about your beginning when you started playing baseball. When you first started playing baseball, how was that transition going from? Did you play two sports, or was you just baseball? What was that like?
Yeah, so growing up, Austin, Texas, Cedar Park, I played everything under the sun growing up. We talk about it as a family. I'm pretty sure that like all of the natural, like athletic abilities that my parents, my brother, like my dad were supposed to get, it all just was given to me. And that's not to say that like I'm the best athlete in the world, but I don't come from an athletic family, and for some reason like God just chose me to be the one that had all the athleticism. So I excelled at a lot of sports growing up. Really gravitated towards football, basketball, and baseball, and I was a three-sport athlete pretty much all the way up until high school. And then in high school, I started focusing a little bit more on baseball towards my junior year, but still played high school football. It's kind of a rite of passage in Texas. You can't get around too far out there without talking about football. And then, a sport that I loved and still love to this day, because like you can just play it more than everything else, is basketball.
Oh,
And
really?
so just loved being in the gym and, hanging out with my friends. I actually didn't play my freshman year of high school and, really regretted that. And so came back my sophomore year of high school, played basketball with my friends, really enjoyed that time I got to spend on the court. But then, my sophomore year was given the opportunity to play varsity as a baseball player at a pretty good school that was
Cool.
historic for kind of winning some baseball games. We had sent some dudes to some big schools, and that's when I kind of started switching the focus to like, all right, I should probably give a little bit more attention to baseball. This seems to be the avenue that is going to take me to college. And not coming from a family that has wealth or anything like that. So if you want to go to college, you're going to need to get some money. You're going to need to get a scholarship. You're going to have to do something. Otherwise, like, you're just going to the local state school and you're still paying for that. My parents weren't paying for college.
I like that, man. That
yeah.
sounds pretty doggone good because coming from where you're coming from Texas. I mean, coming from Texas, because I didn't know exactly where you were from. Texas is a football state. Would you say? I mean, for the most part,
Football, but yeah, I mean, man, like anywhere where there's warm weather year round, like there's baseball to be played, man. We're right next to Louisiana. They've got good baseball over there. Traveling up to Oklahoma and Missouri, them boys can play. Like, there's just baseball to be played around that area. But the blessing is I live in New Jersey now, and we got to travel to different states to go play good competition. And like that, man, you throw a rock out the window and you're hitting a dude who throws 95 in high school, and you don't have to travel to play baseball.
Right.
Like you just play your teammates.
I like that, man, what you said, because coming from Texas, it's a little different from most places. I mean, Texas, Florida, and California, there's baseball everywhere, but this is from my objective, from what I've seen. I'm Midwestern. I'm from Chicago, so we didn't have all the weather, and we didn't have all the things that it comes with living in the state I lived in because it was so cold. So we had to do things from the indoor, or we just didn't do it. But I've
Yep.
noticed something because now I'm in South Florida. The talent is it seems a little bit be more different than every other state. When I say that, I'm talking about like the main states, Georgia, Texas, California, Louisiana, because those are warmer states. I don't know why is that. I just never had a chance to figure that out because I'm actually coaching now and I didn't know what. I mean, do you have any? What's your opinion on something like that?
I think just living up here in New Jersey now, it's like bone chilling cold outside for months out of the year, and there's snow on the ground, and even the dedicated baseball player doesn't want to be out there, playing catch. You can't really even field ground balls. It's expensive to, rent a facility or find a place to do it indoors. If
Yes.
you're really driven, you have a tee or a net set up in your garage or something set up outside and you've got a weight room, but it starts to really be a sport that can only be afforded by those who can pay to,
Yeah.
practice in the
Yeah.
off season. Whereas in the warmer states, if you've got a glove and you've got some buddies and you've got a bucket of balls, in December it might be 30 degrees still, but there's no snow on the ground.
You're
It's cold, but it's not like uncomfortably cold where it's like child abuse. Here it's like,
right.
it's like 3 degrees outside sometimes, and like you can't, in good conscience, get kids out there practicing. So you have to go to the indoor route, and there's some indoor facilities that are doing amazing jobs around here. But again, like you can only do so much with the amount of resources that you're given,
You're right.
and it's just more accessible down there.
You're right. I mean, I just thought I would say that because I try to talk about that a little bit because it doesn't mean that for the guys that are listening, this is episode 50, 41, Matthew de La Rosa. It doesn't mean just because you're from other colder states that you don't have the zeal or the resentments or the tenacity. That does not. We're not saying that. We're just saying that the situation with the weather sometimes it can be a hindrance, but doesn't mean it's impossible. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah,
Would you,
not at all. Yeah, there's good players coming around from all over the country. I mean, with the amount of data that's now out there, like you can really do some really good things indoors. Plus, half the people who are pitching in the South are probably thrown in facilities anyways nowadays because you have to get your TrackMans in there and your Rapsodos and your hit tracks, and like you're not taking that outside.
no.
So the majority of training's still happening in facilities, whether
Correct.
you're in the north or in the south. I would just say that like when it comes to fielding ground balls and getting game like hops and things like that, like you're getting more of that down south. But not to say that you can't do it. I've seen guys do it. I've played with guys who have done it. They're all over. It's just a little bit harder, and it just has to
Yes.
be a
Right.
little bit more inside of you
Right.
to be able to like get up and go do it on your own or in your own home, something like that.
I like what you just said. You said it has to be inside of you. So basically, which my next question is this. So my question to you, coming from Texas, you're in New Jersey now, but coming from Texas, with all those different sports going around each and every year, do you think it was a plus for you being a dual athlete?
Absolutely. I don't think I ever really stopped playing baseball though. I was always in spring, summer, fall, and that was kind of like a constant in my life. And it was definitely the sport that I played the most. But, getting the quickness, getting the toughness of basketball, being just knocked down over and over in football, and just like the body aches that your body goes through when you're playing that sport, especially at, a level where you're playing with guys who are, bigger than you, 100 pounds bigger than you. Like it's tough. And especially in Texas, they run really, really tight programs. And the school that I played football at, we were known for winning, and they ran, a really tight ship. And it taught you just more than just,
The
the sport
sport. Right.
itself. It
Right.
taught you more about like discipline. It
Right.
taught you about, you know, guys who are going to be better than you, and you have to
Hmm.
fight for a spot. It's not given to you. There were just tons of dudes. I think our offensive line in high school, like all five of them are D1 dudes. So like if you want to play offensive line, which I didn't, you got to be you got to be a dude. Like you got to be somebody.
That's right.
We had dudes going to Texas in our secondary, and I played corner and wide receiver. I think we sent a receiver to like Army or something like that. So like that's not a big school, but like still like that's a prominent school.
Right. Right.
You know, cornerbacks are going to Texas, and it's just like this isn't going to be handed to you just because you know you're somewhat athletic and you can walk without tripping and you can catch the football. Like there's dudes who like take this serious, and so
Serious. Yeah.
that taught me just like, oh man, like maybe I don't. That's when I realized like maybe I don't want football that much because I'm not really willing to put in like that much work for football. I was really gifted with it, but once you really had to start like getting after it in the weight room and
Right.
doing the early morning workouts. I think we were doing at one point like 3 a days. You would have like workouts before school, and then you would have like people are always tripped out by this. In high school, you have like sports as a period. So we would go to football period, and then after school you'd have like some form of like film session or weightlifting or something like that. So it's just like, man, this is a lot. And I don't know if like in high school, like at 15 years old, 14 years old, I was like, dude, I don't know if like I want to do this
Do this.
forever. Yeah,
Matthew, that's funny what you said because nowadays kids are like that all the time. All the time. They don't want to do much. I mean, for the most part. I'm just saying it for the most part. It's not like when we were raised because like we go outside and we go play. Hey, let's go play. And on top of that, we didn't have to really just make guys go out here and play because we didn't have all the distractions. And you always have distractions no matter what generation you come from, but it depends on how much, like you said, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? Because, coming from Texas, another question is this, playing football, being a dual athlete, don't you think that kind of gave you somewhat of an edge when you finally get to your destination, your final destination? Do you think that kind of helped you a little bit?
definitely. I mean, again, football just as a young kid, not really letting a lot hurt you. Like you get hit and you get popped, like get back up. Like don't nobody care. I was coached by guys who had been to the NFL, who had played in the NFL, and I'm in Pee Wee football playing with dudes who I had two coaches who one was a defensive end with the Buccaneers and one was like a special teams guy with the Falcons, and they just had kids. Both kids ended up getting drafted and playing professional baseball as well, and that's just the type of people that are down there teaching kids. Like
Mm-hmm.
they don't care. Like they've seen it. They know what the trials and tribulations are. Whether you're trying to go to the NFL, NBA,
Right.
or the MLB, like they know this is going to be a very, very tough road. And if you can't handle Pee Wee football, like you're doomed, dude. So I think just getting,
I
that
like
this
that.
is kind of off it, but like I think just the coaches.
Yeah.
I think I was very blessed to have a lot of really good coaches and men in my life that really persuade the way that I kind of view myself and go about my actions.
That's good. I like that what you said, Matthew. The next question is this: coming from high school, because we're helping high school players and JUCO players get to the next level. And the topic today we want to stay on this is like, okay, coming from high school, from your situation to your wisdom now, to the things you've learned, the trials and tribulations you've been through. How important is academics, you would say, to get D1 or D2 or JUCO?
I mean, if you want to go JUCO, like you ain't really got to go to class. I'm gonna just be straight up. Like you need to have passing grades and you need to, show up for class. But JUCO requirements aren't that much, which is why I think I fell into that bucket. There's a multitude of other reasons, but if you want to go play high level collegiate baseball, like you have to take your academics so serious, and that was something that I'd really you always get told that and like
Right,
what
right.
make sure you do
You know,
the things in the classroom, do
that's right.
whatever, and just
That's right.
like bro, like they ain't talking to me. Like I'm gonna field the ground balls, I'm gonna hit, and like if a school wants me, they're gonna get me in, they're gonna pull some strings, they're gonna do like that. Couldn't be further from the truth now that I'm looking at it. Like they just don't even want to have to worry about whether or not you're gonna show up to class or whether or not you're gonna fail. Like they can't afford that risk when they're investing money into you. And so they have to make
Wow.
sure that they're betting on the right person, not just the right player. And, even if I had the size that I needed to play at a Division 1 school,
Hmm.
I just didn't take school as serious as I should have. And if TCU or Texas actually came knocking on my door, they would have laughed at me because I would have just been, like a kid who just kind of got by in school. I was never, I'm not dumb by any means. I just
You didn't
didn't.
apply yourself.
Yeah, I just didn't. I just had other priorities at that time, and that's something I really try to harp on with these kids. Is just like, it's not that hard to just turn in your homework and take a little bit of extra time
I
to
like that.
study. I just wasn't even, doing that. Quizzes were on a Monday, and here I was Sunday at 11:59 or 11:50, 11:59 p.m. like studying, like, oh, the teacher just sprung it on me. It's like, no, you idiot! Like you wasted all week not studying, playing
Oh man.
whatever.
I like that, Matthew. Matthew, I like your transparency because at the end of the day, we need people to be more transparent because I'm transparent because I'm a coach and that's just how I am. But when I get on this platform, I'm just kind of, I'm a more of a director instead of a
Yeah,
initiator. So I let you guys talk. And it's like you just said, basically the bottom line, you need to grow up and you need to do what you need to do. Bottom line. That's just basically. I'm just paraphrasing everything you just said. And people say, "Well, grow up." Yeah, grow up. You're not a 2 year old no more. You're not 5 year old. You're not drinking a bottle anymore. We're not burping your back. You need to do this now. It's on you, like you said in the beginning. You said that it's really on you. How bad do you really want it? And coming from Texas, and I'm here in South Florida. You talked a little bit about coaching, and it's one of my questions. Talk about coaching. You were blessed to have some good coaches. Now, for me, I didn't have a lot of good coaches, but that's just my story. But it still made me a better player. Do you think when people are trying to make that decision coming from high school, they need to look at coaching, the coach that's there, or what else some things that they need to look for making that
I don't
decision?
think I don't think there's anything else that you need to look for. I think that's the only thing you need to look for.
Oh, all
I
right.
think I think you have to do your research on who it is that you're about to devote your next 4 or 5 years of school to, right? If you want to go play at the University of Texas, like I did growing up in Texas,
Okay.
I didn't care who the guy was. I was just gonna go there.
Mm,
But for all I knew, the guy could have been the worst human being in the world. He could have not cared about anything other than winning. He could have not cared about me personally. He probably couldn't have cared whether or not I got drafted and, help me. I'm not saying that that's what the coach of
correct.
Texas did. I'm just saying,
Correct.
like,
Correct. You
you don't
example.
know. You
Right.
don't know. And so that's a big time in your life when you're somebody who thinks that they've got it all figured out, because most kids do, and reality is like we have nothing figured out. And so
Correct.
you need a good strong man to that's not your father,
Come on now.
because you're
Come on.
away from there,
Come on.
to help guide you
That's right.
into these decisions that you're ultimately going to be put in. You need somebody chirping in your ear about, like, hey, I know y'all are going to go out Friday nights, but like, maybe you shouldn't.
Correct.
Maybe you should be
Correct.
thinking about this instead. And hey, you really need to be hammering on this schoolwork because, like, not everybody's getting drafted, and like, you really need to be focused on this. Where it's like some coaches might just be like, bro, just pass. Make sure you stay on this field for me because my life is winning ball games, and I need you on this field.
Mm,
Where
mm.
again, I think that the only thing that kids need to be, thinking about is who are they going to be playing for.
I like that. I like what you said. That's very good. That's a little bit off to what I wanted to talk about, but that hits what we need to talk about because at the end of the day, if your business, you got a business now, and you played at a high level, and you know what it takes as well. And I'm glad you said that because, here coaching in South Florida, a lot of kids think, well, I'm using it for an example. The shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. I'm sure for the people that are listening, but I'm saying this. A lot of times they get these offers, and they said, well, like you just said, university. I'm just going to use another university. Let's say University of Florida State. Let's just say University of Miami because I'm here in Florida. And then you got another small school, and it's like, well, I don't want to go to that small school. But the first thing I would say is what you just said is, and do some research about the coach, find out a little bit about him, and then also find out about the academics because you said it clearly, and this is just something that I've learned. Because sometimes we make decisions based on what did my brother do, or what did my friend do, or what did my father do, because everybody's academic level is at different levels. Because people don't understand this, Matthew. You understand this. I know this. When you go to JUCO, you really much can pretty much walk in. That's true. But you still got to do, like you said, you got to get your grades. But second of all, you're not going to be there for only 2 years or maybe 1 year. You're not going to be there
I was
long.
only there one year.
You're
Yeah.
not gonna be there long. It's gonna be going like that. But then the next step is okay, am I going D2, D1, D3, or NAI? Because I went to NAI, and I was like, well, this is how I looked at it because I didn't know what I know now, which we learned later. I didn't know why I need to invest or do some research on the coach. I didn't know that, and I didn't in the first coach, and it was bad. Matthew, it was bad. It was bad. It was extremely bad, and I was like, this guy is crazy. I mean, he wasn't. He was crazy. When I say crazy, he was bad when it comes to. He wasn't very diverse. Let's use that. Let's just say that he wasn't very diverse,
There you go.
and I was coming from Chicago, and I'm a city boy, and I went to the country, and that was a little different for me because I was like, this is, but I didn't know that. I didn't know the things that you know now, and that's why I wanted to ask you. The next question was like, you
Well,
know, go ahead.
sorry to cut you off, but I want to say something on record just for that. Like I said, the only thing that they should be thinking about is the coach. That's on the baseball side. That's not on this. That's not on choosing your school fully. You have to understand what that school can offer you from an academic standpoint.
Yeah.
Does it align with your major? Financially, does it make sense? Is it in state? Is it out of state? Like all of these things have to be weighed. But I just wanted to clarify, like when it comes to picking, let's just say that you have a multitude of offers to go to all these schools. Like you're not picking the school for really any other reason to play baseball at other than like can that coach get me and help me as a human being get to where I want to go at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, and I back you up what you just said too. I just wanted to I'm glad you clarified that, and I'm not saying that Matthew said that. I'm just saying there's other little things that we're doing. We're adding on to that. Me and Matthew's like building a cake. We're building a cake together. He's saying that I'm putting this together. We're putting it together. We want to get the correct content and correct information for these kids. Bottom line, because
Yep.
we know that it's a lot of junk out there. A lot of junk, and guys aren't telling you the truth. And then you get there and you get like slapped on the face, like, oh, I didn't know this happens. But that's what we're telling you. But let me go to the next question. You talk about going JUCO. You went JUCO, and how was that short experience going JUCO? Because some kids may go JUCO, so we know it was we know. But my question, break it down if you can break down three things you need to look for as being a JUCO player.
Man, JUCO is a wild world, man. I went to Cisco Junior College. Um, that was really the only place that was letting me come play baseball out of high school, and so I didn't really have an option. It was like go play at Cisco or go to school somewhere else and not play baseball. So I went to Cisco, not really knowing what to expect. College baseball, I'm feeling pumped up just because I'm one of like five guys on my team getting to go play baseball. And man, this town, like first off, JUCO towns are just in the middle of nowhere,
Nowhere.
man. You don't know what to expect. I'm in a town. The school itself had 1,000 people.
Whoa.
The town had 900. We had one stoplight and like five places to eat. Um, that's the type of environment that you have to kind of be willing and able to run into if you want to play baseball past JUCO. Now, there's some JUCOs out there that I'm sure are in
Right.
nicer areas, but I would say the
For the
vast
most part.
majorities of JUCOs, you're going to
Timbuktu.
BFE, and if and
Timbuktu.
you need to understand that there is not going to be a lot going on socially. There's not going to be the big parties. You're going to have to drive to like different cities if that's what you want to do, but you're there for a sole purpose, and that's to figure out your grades and get out of there as fast as possible, right? There was
I like
nothing else to do but go to school, play baseball, and lift weights. You're bored. You're 18-year-old kids living in the middle of nowhere. You're going to find creative things to do, and you're going to create a little bit of trouble here and there. But I would say that you need to understand that you're going to a place that not a lot of people want to go to.
That's right. That's right.
You
I
know,
mean, that's true because I remember my first time coming from Chicago, a big city. I'm a city boy, and I went to Coffeyville Community College in Kansas. And man, I tell you what, once you get off the plane, I gotta take a bus. That bus is like, gosh, it took forever. Seemed like it was driving forever. And that's when I was taking a Greyhound. I'm like, what is going on? Because I didn't know anything. I had to put myself on there. My mother didn't have any money. Like, you're similar to your situation. We didn't have any money. I just had to make it happen if I wanted to go play ball. And I tell you what, man, I ain't never seen so much corn in Kansas in my whole life. I was like, what is
Yeah.
going on here? And I was like, oh wow. So when I got off the bus, and I'm like, man, this is different, because I'm so used to the city life, because you got to remember this is the first time being away from college. You don't know what to expect, and no one's talking to me, no one's educating me, and
hmm
so I got off the bus, man, and then said, this is Coffeyville Community College, and I looked over and I was like, this is tiny, and like you said, I mean, it was in Timbuktu, and I was like, and I said, what is there to do here? And just to ask, just to know what is there to do, because I'm so, coming from high school, you have so many surrounding things to do, and there was nothing to do. They had a bar, a couple of churches, a lot of liquor stores.
We didn't even have that. It was a dry county. Ours was a
Oh,
dry county, man. If you wanted to get alcohol, you had to drive like 20 minutes out of the county each way.
it was bad, man. Matthew, it was bad. I mean, but like you said, I was there for one purpose, and one purpose was to get in, get out, play baseball to the highest and quick as I can, the best I can, and also get my grades up as quickly as possible so I can go somewhere else. And that's
Yep.
and put some good numbers up. That's the bottom line. But the good thing about a JUCO, and we're not talking bad all about JUCOs for people to
No,
listen. We're not
JUCO's
saying that.
great.
We're just giving you the pluses and the negatives. Now, JUCO was a good thing for me because it accelerated. It made me work harder, made me stay focused. I had to stay focused because if I wanted to get to the next level, and I had to put some numbers up. And it was really easier because I got all my prerequisites out in the front of my career, of my college academic. I took all that first, got that out the way, and it was easier instead of me going to a D2, D3, NAI or D1 school and face it as a freshman because I wasn't mentally mature. I wasn't mature, so I needed to do that. So I just want to throw that out there because people say, "Well, you guys don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, if you go into school somewhere in Texas, or using Texas for example, and there's a JUCO somewhere close to Dallas, that's different. That's different. We're not saying that it doesn't happen, but there's very few JUCOs that are in big cities. Normally, they're bigger schools. So, with that being said, I want to make sure people are going to be saying, they're going to be sending me a little text. Hey, coach, and it's not true. I was like, no, we're not talking about all of them. We're talking about majority. So,
Yep.
going for your JUCO, you played two positions. Is that correct, Matthew?
Correct. I
Okay,
was a
so
primary infield who just kept like the coaches were just like, all right, you just got to keep pitching. You got a pretty good arm, but I was like, all right, but I'm a infielder, just so you know. Like I play the infield.
that's
And they're like,
why
all right, we're
that's
gonna keep
why
you pitching though.
I threw that out there for a reason. I just threw you a curveball because I'm finna go to that next question. And so, coming from JUCO and going to college, you go from JUCO. You was a two-way player. You played infield and you pitched. But later, which we're gonna talk about that later, you became just a pitcher. It seems like from the numbers I see, when you got drafted. So, being a dual player, do you think that was a good thing for you because you wanted to be more of a hitter? Uh, for your future, what do you think about that? Because when you go to college, they put you where they want to put you. It's not where you want to go. So, what do you say
Yeah.
about that?
I think it was the best thing for me, man. Again, I was a primary infielder who kind of pitched in the background and just kind of kept this thing going. I never really put it down for an extended period of time. I never, got the wear and tear of, throwing all these innings, but I was still throwing my bullpens regularly and still keeping my stuff sharp and, or as sharp as you could. And, I'm a lefty hitter as well and a righty thrower. So I think, being able to take all those swings from the left side and throwing from the right side really helped balance out my body. And I really think that helped, over the long period of time. And I think, staying athletic and moving and making athletic throws really helped me later down the line when it came to pitching. I wasn't stuck in these like robotic mechanics. I've just
Right.
always been an athlete who could get on the mound and,
Make it happen.
make it happen. And then, it started to, once you get drafted, it starts to become a little bit more serious. But in college, you're just having fun. You're just the guy who gets to go on the mound and hopefully make all the guys who pitch look bad because this is what they do all the time. And you're the guy that just is just like, yeah, I got this in my back pocket. Like, no
That's right.
worries.
I like
You
that,
know.
Matthew. That's pretty good, man. I like your swag. You got a little swag on you. I like that. Your personality is pretty cool. Coming from JUCO, um, going to the next school. I'm gonna let you talk about that. How was that transition? We talked about the transition from high school, but how was the transition from JUCO to D2?
It was difficult for me. So for the record, I did not play very much at JUCO either.
Okay.
I was at a very good JUCO. We were at one point in the year the number one team in the nation. I mean, we had dudes everywhere you look. And
Mm-hmm.
so you asked, what was one of the things that people need to understand about JUCO? There's dudes there. There's dudes who play baseball at a very, very high level that are bounce back guys from D1, who are guys who are D1 talent but maybe didn't have the grades, who are guys who don't want to go D1 because they don't want to spend 3 years having to wait until they get drafted just so they can get drafted after year one. Like, whatever it may be, like, there are dudes. And so I was behind a bounce back guy. I was behind a guy who had already played Division I baseball, who was the shortstop there, and then the second baseman was also a guy who had spent a year at the school already and ended up getting recruited out of there by A&M. And so it really wasn't a lot of playing time. And then I was fortunate to get put into a summer league up in North Carolina where I ended up getting seen by the coach up there. But the goal was after year one to come back and be that starting shortstop for
Wow.
Cisco and then go D1 after that. That was kind of the mindset. But this coach at Lenore Ryan saw me play. I ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year at this school, or at this summer camp, and hit really well. I was a 3-hole hitter for the team that I was on, and he just kept in my ear, bro. You got to come here. You got to come here. I'm the new coach. You're gonna be the guy that's gonna build this organization and program with me. Like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Keep coming. Come, come, come. And I was like, no, dude. Like, I don't even know your school. Like, I don't know anything about D2 baseball. I don't even know who you are. Like, this is so far away from home. Like, I'm gonna go home, back to Cisco, where I've got some comfort, and then I'm gonna go to LSU, Texas, Texas A&M, TCU, whoever's going to have me. Now, that was a
Right.
pipe dream, whether I
Right.
go back there, like, I don't know if I end up making it. But um, so long story short, I end up signing with Lenore Ryan University because the coach put this question into my head, and it's something I'll never forget. He was just like, why don't you want to come here? And I was like, I'm going to go D1. And he said, is your goal to play D1 baseball or is your goal to play professional baseball? Because if it's to play professional baseball, I can help you and I will help you. And you'll be the guy who I'll put the resources behind. And I'd never really gotten past the thought of playing high level D1 baseball. Like, every kid wants to play professional baseball, but you get so stunned by the Texases, the TCUs, the A&Ms. You're just like, man, I just want to go there. Like, that is kind of big league baseball, in these bigger cities. And so I was paralyzed by that, and I couldn't see the vision clearly. And the vision had always been, hey, we're trying to get to the pros, man. Like, we ain't stopping at, even if you go to these big schools, you ain't stopping there. It's to get to the pros. So if this guy's telling you, and you've had nobody else in your life so far tell you they will help you get drafted, then you need to go with this guy. And so I ended
Right.
up going there. Great time there. My first year sucked. It sucked, man. I walked in like you couldn't tell me nothing, dude. Like, I'm this guy from Texas who's been brought here to be the savior for the program, and I didn't walk around like that, like confidence. Like, I wasn't a dickhead to people, and I wasn't, arrogant. I was more under the impression that I am physically better than all of you, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to have to work nearly as hard. This is D2 baseball. I'm a D1 caliber player. Like, I'm going to come in here, I'm freaking light it up, and I'm going to show y'all how baseball is played in Texas.
Mm.
And I crumbled. I crumbled, man. I had so many errors at shortstop. I hit like 220. Like, we sucked as a team. Like, I let that get to me, and it really hindered my performance. And
Wow.
I was just like, dude, this is not good. Like, I just gave up JUCO baseball to possibly go D1 to come to this D2 that hasn't had winning in their program. And not only are we not winning as a team, but like, I suck and I might be the worst player on this team.
Mm-hmm.
In the everyday starting lineup. So that was a very, very big hit to my ego, and probably the best thing that ever could have happened for me, to be
Wow.
completely honest. Like, I needed that.
Mm.
I needed a punch in the face to be like, bro, you're good. Like, just raw ability, and God has gifted you with some talents, but like, you got work to do, man. You
Right.
got a lot of work to do.
I like that, Matthew. What you said, and based on what you just said, I'm going to read something. It goes to what you just said. I'm going to read something. And it says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither your ways my ways. Thus saith the Lord." And you said that. The reason I read that was because you said, "I don't think that I know what I know, but I need someone to tell me what they see in me." And I read that scripture because your thoughts are not His thoughts, and your ways are not His ways. Because sometimes God puts people in your life to tell you who you really are because we don't know. Because if you never got that before, it's like foreign. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, coming from a guy from a big city, Chicago, I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anyone speaking in my ear like you talked about earlier in the episode. You kept talking about someone speaking in your ear, having a good coach, and I think it's very valid because it's leadership. Basically, you're talking about leadership because basically, we didn't have I didn't have it. I mean, my grandfather was great. He was great, but he wasn't an athlete. So he didn't speak that language, but he did speak life into me as far as how to deal with everyday life. I had to bring that up because you basically said that even though you were struggling, someone still believed in you. And you had to get that seed of let's say compassion and love to someone to pour that in you so it can grow. So man, you know what? I believe I can do it because you said that was the worst thing, but it was the best thing for you at that time to get you to the next level where you are today. I mean, because think about it, now you're doing coaching, you're doing your own thing, and you basically everything that people put in you, you put in other people. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it would be a disservice to not, mention the fact that I had really, supportive parents who, didn't want to hear, my tears about, hey, yeah,
Get
this
over it.
sucks. I want, yeah, I don't want to
Get
be
over it.
here. Like, this sucks. And it's just like, well, you're there. So, like, figure it out.
That's right.
And like,
That's right.
it's not that they were mean or,
Right.
anything like that. Like, they were just like, you're here. You made the decision to do this.
Decision.
You're
Deal
not
with it.
going anywhere.
That's right.
You need to figure it out because you're only a sophomore at the time. You've got 2 more years left. So figure out what you need to do and figure out how to get better quickly. And then that kind of segues me into the next one of, the guy who recruited me ended up also getting me into the Northwoods League. And, I don't know if you know the Northwoods League, but very, very prominent, summer collegiate league where dudes are going there from all over the country, D1 caliber players. I played with dudes on my team who you got drafted out of that league. I played against like Pete Alonso and guys like that, like guys who are actual big time collegiate players. And again, just another dose of reality of like, this is the competition here. And I think getting into that league and playing, I think it's like 65 games in 72 days over the summer, traveling all over the like Midwest in buses and things like that. I think that really helps a kid grow up like me, who needed to play every day. I used to be a guy who'd come in and after outs, especially when I was doing really bad and I thought I was the worst player on the team, like I'm throwing my helmet. I'm upset because every at bat seemed so valuable. And not that they're not, but like
Right.
when you get the privilege to play every single day, like like I did in the Northwoods League, you start to realize like I'm just gonna get a couple more at bats tomorrow, and I'm gonna get more at
Right.
bats the next day, and like that really started to take some of the pressure off of me, and it really
Hmm.
started to unleash like my inner potential and
Right.
who I ended up becoming because I just became more like Zen like almost. Got
Mm.
around a lot of players who had played at high end universities, Louisville's, Kentucky's, LSU's, just from all over the country, man. And
Hmm.
and you start hearing how they talk about themselves to themselves, what their dialogue is like, how they go about their work. You watch them, and you're just like, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing anything close to that, man. Like this guy's at the ballpark 4 hours before the game, hitting tees
Right.
into the outfield. Like I should
Right.
probably be doing that.
That's right. I like that, Matthew, because you basically said this earlier. And you talked about how bad do you want it. That's the bottom line. How bad do you really want this thing? I mean, that's which brings me to the next topic, next question. I'm sorry. Before I get into we're gonna have like a quick commercial. I'm gonna throw something in there, but the question I want to give you is this: do you think there really is a difference between good D2 baseball versus D1? In your opinion? Because you had an experience to play summer ball with some great guys. So what's your opinion about that?
So I think that like, especially now, like it. Yes, there's a difference still. Like, I think the depth of D1 baseball and the players that are there, your backup third baseman at Texas is probably better than your backup third baseman at Lenore Ryan University. And the starting third baseman is probably better. They're
Right.
bigger, they're more consistent, I would say. When it comes to the arms, I would say that has every team in D1 baseball or D2 baseball who's a legit team, they have a guy who is a D1 caliber player. They've got a day two guy who can play at the D1 level and can compete at the D2 level. I'm not going to sit here and say that like D1 baseball, because I've seen dudes who are D1 caliber players who are really good, and like we ain't got guys like that at
Right.
D2. But
Right. Right.
you'd be stupid to think that there's not guys at D2 who can't
Can't
mash
play.
the baseball as well, or
Right.
can't throw a ball 95, 96 miles an hour. I think on my team alone, we had three dudes who threw the ball harder than 95 miles an hour.
Mm.
Like
That's tough.
I think four, maybe even four at one time. Um, there's talent there in D2 baseball. I've played across. Once I got drafted, you're not. You get surprised by what that locker room looks like on day one when you walk in there, and you're expecting it to be Vanderbilt, TCU, LSU, Cal State Fullerton. It's just like, what school did you go to? Where'd you come from? And you're just like, I never even heard of you. And then you look them up, and they're just like some dude who went like 13-0 with like a .7 ERA through college with like 150 punch outs, and you're just like, oh, so this guy can
He got the
ball.
ball. He
Yeah.
can ball.
you know.
He can ball. I like that. That's cool, man. We're gonna give you a quick break because we got a few more minutes left. We've been going strong for like 40 minutes. I got something I do every podcast. It's called a true triple play. This gets a little history because a lot of people they only what I've learned. This is just something that I've learned. A lot of young guys, not you, but younger guys, they don't care about history very much. They care about
Mm.
what's going on now. But I want to set the wave for the people that paved the way for me and for you to play baseball. So it's called the True Triple Play. I give a little history and give a little note. It gives you a quick break, real quick. The True Triple Play today. We're going to talk about this gentleman. I'm going to say he was born January 31st, 1931, in Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas.
There
He
you go.
died on January 23rd, 2015, in Chicago, Illinois. He threw right, hit right. His MLB debut was September 17th with the Chicago Cubs. Also, his last appearance was September 26th, 1971, before I was born, before you were born, for the Chicago Cubs. He had a career batting average of 274. He had 2,583 hits. He had 512 hits. 512 home runs. I apologize. 1,636 ribbies. And you'd probably know who he is. He played his whole career with the Chicago Cubs. And I'm going to say a few other things he did. He was a 14-time All Star, 14-time All Star, two-time MLB National League Most Valuable Player. He had a Golden Glove, two-time National League Home Run leader. Also, he was a two-time National League RBI leader. He is the very own Mr. Cub himself,
Ernie Banks, baby.
Ernie Banks. That's Ernie Banks. I had to throw that in there because, like I said, we get to talking and get talking, give you a little break. And, I'm from Chicago and I know who he was, but I do each episode I put different ones. So when people are listening to our show, the show, I want to make sure they get an understanding. And also, he played with it. I didn't know he played with it. He played for the Kansas City Monarchs in the Negro
Yeah,
League.
in the Negro League. Yeah,
I
that's where
didn't
it
know that.
started.
Yeah, that's where he started at, and for the people to know that, for the younger generation, to get just understand that they paved the way for me and for you. Um, I believe I have some. I got a lot of different things in my culture. Nationalities, and you probably do as well. And so they paved the way for us to be able to go out here and play baseball. I mean, baseball is not a sport that it ain't cheap. First of all, I can tell you that it's not a cheap sport. I mean, when I was playing, it was everything was cheaper, but now it's like for a glove is like $300, and like $300, and a bat is like 500. Like what? What are you paying for? It's just
Yeah.
metal. But we're not gonna we're not gonna go on a tangent with that. So let's talk a little bit more about your career pro ball. But before I get that, I got a question for you. This is another question. It's called instant replay. We call it the replay. Can you tell the audience, because we haven't had a chance to see you play, that you did a play yourself that you can share with us that it was like it was like a play that you haven't done in your life? You did it once in a lifetime.
A play?
Yeah, that you did. Either you're playing defense or pitching or hitting, whatever, and it was like, wow, this needs to go on ESPN.
I think I was fortunate enough to win a couple defensive players of the year, so I'd have to imagine there's some in there. Nothing really comes to my mind on that end. On the hitting side in college,
Okay.
uh, I did it twice. A multi home run game. I think those always kind of stick out to you. There was a day where I was just on, and I started to get really good at understanding what pitches were going to be thrown and what counts. And I had a pitching coach who understood, how to pitch to players. And I was about to walk up. The coach takes a mound beating on the other team because I'd already hit a double that game. And
Okay.
I was the guy in our lineup at that point in time in my career where like I'm the scouting report. Like they're trying to figure out like how do I get Matthew out? Like he's the guy we got to pitch around, figure out that. So I come up in a bases loaded situation, and lefties. I kind of struggled with lefties, being a lefty myself. He's on the mound. It's in the middle of the game, and I go talk to my pitching coach, and he's kind of talking to me about like what could possibly be happening. And right before he goes up, right before I go up to the mound or to the batter's box, he looks at me and he says, "Don't be surprised if he throws you a first pitch hanger, like a curveball, like a get me over curveball." So now in my mind, I'm just like, all right, well, I'm probably going to go ahead and just sit first pitch curveball on this lefty. And, I probably hit one of the furthest grand slams that I'd ever hit. Just opposite field, stayed on it, left center. It was a great moment, great feeling. For those who have hit grand slams, you know what that feels like.
Never
For those
had
who
a grand
haven't,
slam.
like it's
Never.
an amazing feeling to just, trot the bases and just be like, I just brought in everybody, man.
That's good.
And then and then hit another home run that day. So I think I
Grand
ended up
slam.
with like 3 that day overall. Two games and in one day I think, or yeah, 2 games in one day. I think I hit 3 in a day, and I think that was a day. Yeah.
Wow, that's good, man. That is a player. That's a player of the day. It's instant replay. I like
There
to
you
hear
go.
that. Man, for a pitcher, I mean, but you actually was a dual. You were a small Otani before there was a Otani. You were there. You did this before because you probably learned how to hit first. It's probably easier to learn how to hit than to pitch. Would you say? Would you say?
Yeah. Uh,
Because just think about it. I don't
that's
know.
a tough one.
That's a tough one, but for me, I mean, we throw a ball, but to constantly throw strikes and throw the different type of pitches on in different situations, you have to be taught that, and it takes time. But it sounds to me you were a pretty decent hitter because you hit left-handed, and you're right-handed. Because to be a switch hitter, it's hard to be a switch hitter. It is hard. I don't care what anyone says. It's hard. It's not easy. But the thing is with me, when I played similar to your situation, I started being a pitcher first, and I didn't like it, and I'm left-handed. I just didn't like it. I mean, yeah, but I wanted to be on the field because I
Yeah.
wanted to hit. I like to hit, and so I just thought I'd share that with you because I was like, man, you know what? He had to be a pretty good hitter. I mean, that's what I would think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was definitely a good hitter. I think that still hitting is, it's up there with the hardest thing to do in sports. I think it'd be a disservice to sit on
Yeah,
this thing and be
yeah,
like, hey, pitching's easier than or harder than hitting. Hitting, you don't know what's coming. Pitching, you're kind of always in control.
yeah, yeah,
I still think hitting's hard.
yeah. It is.
Um, but yeah, I was fortunate to just be a good hitter all the way. I always had the skills of being a good hitter. I just never had the size in high school or
Okay.
in travel ball and even in the early parts of my college career. And I became a good hitter because I think from the moment that I stepped on campus at Cisco at 75 pounds, I left college at 220.
Okay.
I just turned myself into a better version of the same player. Like I
I
didn't really
got you.
change much in my swing. I just got stronger, and the balls that I was flying out to center field are now, clearing the fence by 20, 30 feet.
I got you. Put a little bit of muscle on, a little bit. You grew a little bit. Which leads
Grew,
me to the
yeah.
next question. And the reason I gave you that one because it leads to the next question. Coming from a hitter to a pitcher, do you think you had a better edge because you knew what to expect as hitters? Because that's why I asked that question. So now You become a full-time pitcher when you get drafted. You're playing for the Baltimore Orioles organization. My question is, being a pitcher, was that more challenging for you because you're used to hitting, or you just accepted that role and you kind of dominated? Did it make it easier
Uh,
for you?
it was still hard. When you say the word pitching, people perceive it in their mind as so many different things. I think some people just perceive it as like getting on the mound, throwing your pitches, and getting off the mound. That's kind of how I thought about it.
Okay.
I thought
Okay.
about, I had a 90 mid 90 mile an hour fastball. I could blow fastballs by guys, and I had a pretty good breaking pitch. And when you're not facing like professional athletes, that's a really good repertoire to have, and like you can get away with a lot more. When you start facing professional athletes, you have to learn how to pitch, and the
Mm.
inside game, like inside the game of pitching, is stuff that I had never really deeply thought about. How to set up pitches, how to tunnel, when to throw pitches and what counts, what to look for in certain pitcher or certain batters swings, how do they stand when they come up to the plate. If I look at their past, 10 games, are they on a hot streak, or are they on a cold streak? Does this guy strike out a lot? Like, I wasn't doing any of that, and so that became a challenge because I walked into professional baseball still as like a thrower.
Mm.
And when I got drafted, they were just like, "Here's the ball, there's the mound, good luck." And I was just like, "All right, like this
Whatever.
this is, yeah, whatever it is. Like, I'm just gonna go out there and compete, and like it is what it is." But then you had guys who had been pitching for years and have had pitching coaches who are talking to them about all of that, and the proper way to take care of your arm off the field. Like, I didn't really know too much about like arm care or anything like that. Like, we had a really good program in college, but like I never really took it like crazy serious. I never had any injuries and stuff. And then actually my first spring training, I ended up getting Tommy John. So I had to go through all of that, and that's where I really went deep. That's where I really started to spend time in my player development. Going through the rehab process with the Orioles and learning from, their trainers there about how to take care of your bodies, how to, strengthen your body to be able to throw hard. And then I started paying money to go to the Texas Baseball Ranch and learn how to pitch from those guys and learn about my mechanics. And then I started paying money to go to a place in Texas called DST, Dynamic Sports Training, where dudes who, are Cy Young winners are training, and it's just like I got to
Mm.
get around these people because I don't have this. I don't. I got a lot of catching up here to do,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
I think that's what made it difficult. Is that I don't think I was, and it was to nobody's fault other than like the fact that I just didn't
You didn't know.
pitch that much. Yeah, that I was just behind. I was
Right.
behind a lot of guys. Now I could have still made up for it just because of my overall skill level, but when you're going up against people who are just as skillful as you, who also have that edge on you, it can make it very difficult.
Mm. I like that what you said. You basically given the listeners some a sneak preview what it's like with pro baseball. Because everybody's good. Everybody's good. And so I like that what you said. Let's talk about that draft day when you got drafted. I know you were excited. I know it was a great day. What was you doing, and what was that like getting drafted by the Baltimore Orioles?
Yeah, it was a great day. It's a great day that I'll never forget. But I'd be lying if I said that like I was just excited all day. I was super nervous. I'm a senior coming out of school who had been looked at as a shortstop, third baseman, second baseman. I even did, catching in my pro days, and then they saw me on the mound. I had gotten some interest from a few teams, but I wasn't by any means like this, can't miss guy that they're coming and, taking a chance on. So I knew if I was going to go, it was going to be in the third day, and you watch the first 2 days go by. I think back then it was like day one was like the first 2 days or the first two rounds with a supplemental round in there, and then day two was like rounds 3 through 10. So I knew I was going to go there, and then from there it was only 40 rounds at the time. So day three was rounds 10 through 40, and it goes all online. So like it's not like you're watching MLB Network,
Correct.
like you're just
Correct.
listening
Correct.
all day. And when you're listening to whether or not are you going to go this path in life or this path in life, like time ceases to exist. You're thinking, I couldn't sleep the night before. I was in my brother's apartment and waiting for the day, and just the amount of thoughts that run through my head of like, man, it would be so cool to get drafted and I can't wait. But on the other hand, it's just like, dude, what the hell am I going to do if I don't get drafted?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I got to get a job. Like, I don't want to work yet. Like, I'm not ready to do that.
I got
And
you.
so that kind of weighed on me. If I could give any advice to anybody out there listening who is a day three guy or later in the round guy, or even just anybody in general who's not going, to the MLB network to get drafted, go do anything else besides listen to the draft, man. Find out that you got drafted anywhere else. Like,
Right.
don't put yourself through that. Like, go enjoy time with your friends and families. Go do an activity. Obviously, you'll still be thinking about it, but like,
Right.
just don't look at the TV and watch and waiting, crossing your fingers that you get
like
drafted.
that.
It's not fun.
I like that, Matthew.
Yeah.
Matthew's like, listen, don't do that. I've been through that. I got a trophy with it, and I don't want the trophy. It's just, it's mentally draining. Let's put it that way. It's mentally draining. Man, I like what you said. So I got two more questions, and we're gonna close it out. Matthew, what was it like that first year of spring training, going in and seeing the studs and going up to spring training? What was that like? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, man, it's very gratifying to be able to have the opportunity to be there. Like, you walk in and you just, you're looking at a Manny Machado who's just a superstar, and you're just like, dude, I'm in the same building as these guys. I'm around dudes who have been in the big leagues, and they're talking, and you're just hearing, side conversations at the lunch table about their time in the big leagues, and you're just like, dude, like, this guy has been to the big leagues. Because when you get drafted, like, people would think like, oh, you made it. It's just like, dude, you got a long way to go still. Like, there's still mountains and mountains of work to be done the day you get drafted. And so for guys who have put in that work and have been to where you're trying to go, it's just awesome to be around them. Then you've got coaches who have played at, the highest level for decades. You've got coaches who are, gurus of some sort, and then you got guys like me who are just, grateful for the opportunity to be there. And so you've got, a little mix of everything. It's very, very laid back, but professional at the same time. And there's a place to be, but there's nobody there telling you to be there. And you have to be able to have that time management built into your schedule, and you have to know how to take care of what needs to be taken care of before you go out there, whether it's your body rolling out, getting your workouts in, whatever it may be, because for the most part, they ain't going to track you down. If you're not there, they're just going to be like, all right, he's not here. Next, let's move on. So like, you have to really be in tune with what's going on. There's a lot of moving pieces in spring training, and it's easy to get kind of lost in the shuffle. And so you have to go in there with preparation, a plan, every single day, and take it serious. So it's very important to guys who are not big money signed guys out of high school or college. So
like
it's really a place to show yourself and show that you are about the business and about the work, and you get there early and you do what you need to do, and that's the only way you can really kind of stand out.
I like that, man. We only got like 2 minutes left before I get off. This,
Yep.
That was pretty good, Matthew, based on what you just said. This is episode 41, very own Matthew De La Rosa. And he got drafted by the Baltimore Orioles, played a little bit of minor league ball. Also, he also has a facility, and I want him to talk about his training. If you don't mind talking about that and give out your social links so people can contact you if they want your services.
For sure. So I own and operate NJ Healthy Heat. After I got done playing, I went to Mexico as well, so maybe that's a whole nother thing. I played ball in Mexico.
I didn't
After
know
I
that.
got done, yeah. So after I got done playing pro ball, I went into the corporate world. I did the corporate world for about 4 years. Quickly realized like this wasn't for me. I was moving up and getting the promotions and earning the money, and I was just like, all right, my heart's in baseball. So I took a step back. Around a year ago today, I quit my job and went all in on a business that I just had seen in my mind, and I was just like, all right, I know I can do this. Like, pretty much everything I've done in my life, I've succeeded at, and I just am going to bet on me. And I ended up starting what's known as NJ Healthy Heat now. And it started off as just helping pitchers develop and learn how to take care of their bodies. And how to, put together their throwing programs and kind of mentoring them and, being a resource just for them. The way that, you're putting all of this together, kids can ask me these questions, all over the country. And it quickly grew into, um, helping kids on defense and helping them with their defense. And then it quickly grew into, hey, coach, I need help with strength and conditioning. And hey, coach, I need help with, hitting. And then by the time you knew it, it was just like, well, I don't feel uncomfortable teaching you all of these things because I've done all of these things myself. And I'm not teaching you anything that I haven't myself done. And so that has been, my project and my passion, and will continue to be my passion for the rest of my life. And I'm very, very fortunate to be in the situation that I'm in, and very fortunate for the clients that I get to work with. And if you're out there and you want to give me a follow, I'm on social media across, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, NJ Healthy Heat. So we're trying to just again give as much information that I got over my career, whether it be in high school, college, or pro ball, and just give it back to the guys who are willing to accept it and want to take their game to the next level, or the highest level that they can go to.
I like that. And as I stated, this is episode 41. Matthew De La Rosa, and his channel is NJ. N is in Nancy, J as in jog, healthy, heat. That's on Instagram as well, Twitter, and all of the social media channels. I'm gonna read one last thing and then we're gonna get off here. And this is in Daniel 4, based on what you just said, 4 verses 5. It says, I saw a dream which made me afraid, and thoughts upon my bed, and the vision of my head troubled me. So basically, what I'm saying is, why to read it? I'm glad you asked that. The reason I read that because he said had visions in his head. So he tried the corporate world. He had visions as he was sleeping. He was kept dreaming about it and dreaming about it. And the reason I said that because Daniel had a dream, and he had a dream in his head, and it manifested, but it took time. But he had to go through the process and understand this is not for me. So he made that dream a reality. And Matthew De La Rosa has made his dream a reality. He gives experiences playing at the high level. So I'm challenging everyone, if you want to get some top level instruction and the correct instructions, not just any instruction. I'm gonna say that can't get any instruction. You're gonna get it from the best. He had an opportunity to play pro ball. He also can go from the hitting side. He can go from the pitching side. So check him out, Matthew De La Rosa, NJ Healthy Heat on Instagram, Twitter, and all the social media channels. Matthew, one last thing before we go. I'm gonna close it out. Who is your Mount Everest 4 players, would you say, of all time?
Mount Everest for baseball players, you can't go far without Ken Griffey Jr. That's the idol. Growing up, shortstop, big Boston Red Sox fan, Nomar Garcia-Parra.
Okay.
Then you watch David Ortiz just put the team on his back. David Ortiz, arguably the greatest DH of all time. And then if you've got to throw a pitcher in there, man, growing up in Texas, it's Nolan Ryan, and that's it right there, right? So I think that's a pretty good Mount Rushmore. I'd go to battle with those guys. The last thing I'll leave with you guys. This is something I say all the time to every single one of my videos that I end with, and something I try to instill. It was something that was brought to us on my high school announcements, and it's make it a great day or not. The choice is yours. That's how I leave pretty much every video. And the thought process behind that is whether you're having a good day or a bad day, and especially on the days that you're having a bad, like if you can just remember that saying that you have the power inside to you to decide whether or not this is a good day or a bad day. That's so powerful. There's going to be times in your life where things are not going to be great. You're going to be going through weeks, months, maybe even years of your life where it's just going to be a huge, huge struggle. And it's just how you decide to, view it in your own mind and whether it's going to be a good day or not. So just remember that as you go through your life is you literally have the power every single day to decide whether or not you're having a good day or a bad day.
Man. Drop the mic on that one. Hey, hey, Matthew De La Rosa. Hey, Matthew, I appreciate it, man. And I'm going to close it out. I want to say thank you again, man. And I pray that you have success with your business, continue to move forward, impact and empower these young kids, and also give them the right information, which I know you will because you have a passion for it. And you also been through it. You've experienced in your life. So this leaves it out. We're going to close it out. Matthew De La Rosa, episode 41. The question is this, as I close out. Where are you being led? As you heard all this information, great information from a guy himself that had some ups and downs in high school and JUCO, and then made it to the next level of playing minor league baseball with the Baltimore Orioles. The question is, where are you being led? That means, where are you going? Where's your vision? Were you going north, south, or east, west? When you get in a car, you're driving north, south, or east, west. So my question is this: where are you being led? That means LED. L stands for listen. Listen to everything that Matthew said today. I challenge you to listen, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word over and over and over. You got to keep listening. He talked about that all through this podcast today. Go back and listen to it. Listen. He, and if you listen, you can eliminate all the errors. I can guarantee you that. Listen. And faith comes by hearing, and hear the word of God. The E stands for execute everything he said today. Now, I'm backing him up. Execute after you listen, because execution is something that you have to do. It's like faith without work is dead. You got to move with faith. You do something with the words you make it happen, which leads me to the next letter, D. D stands for dominate. Dominate. L, listen. E, execute. D, dominate. God has given us the power to have dominion over every creeping thing upon the face of earth. We're God's child, so make sure you use everything He's given you to dominate. LED. This is Coach Laurie. This is Coach Laurie. I'm sorry, I got tongue tied. Savelle Laurie with Matthew De La Rosa, episode 41. As I say all the time, God bless, never stress. Have a great day. Hey, and by the way, keep the success up, man. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome. Bye bye.